So Parsha Tetzaveh is, interestingly enough, the one Parsha that does not have Moshe Rabbeinu's name mentioned in it. As we know, next week's Parsha, during the Parshas of the Egel, and in praying for Klal Yisrael, Moshe says the famous words, "Mechini na misifrecha." If this is not going to happen, then there's no reason for my existence. So Mechini na misifrecha, and HaShem Baruch Hu chose one Parsha to sort of carry out those words of erase me from your book, even though it wasn't ultimately necessary, because HaShem Baruch Hu did forgive the Jewish people. But once a tzaddik says something, it has relevance, it has impact, which is why people in general, even though sort of we're not in Moshe Rabbeinu's level, but what we say, we should always be sensitive to our words and sort of not fall into that trap, chas v'shalom. But those words did have an impact, and this was the parsha that was chosen to have Moshe Rabbeinu's name removed. So it's an interesting shot in terms of why Dafka Parsha Tetzaveh. Why this parsha of all the other parshas should this be the parsha Moshe Rabbeinu's name is not mentioned? And of course, we're talking about from the time Moshe Rabbeinu hits the scene in Shemos. From that point on, he's mentioned in every single parsha. So again, many possible answers, but one very interesting one that I think certainly is good to keep in mind during this time. It's before Purim as well. That in terms of our fundamental relation with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to sort of understand how Klal Yisrael functions, it's very important to remember that that this parsha always falls on the week of Zayin Adar. This is the week of Moshe Rabbeinu's yahrzeit, and I guess the concept would be that to sort of drive home the uniqueness of our relation with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the uniqueness of what Yiddishkeit, what Judaism stands for, the fundamental underpinnings of how it works, sort of runs very counter to so many, every other religion probably. Certainly not an expert in other religions and all religions, but certainly the human factor plays such a critical role in religions. People who represented God, or however people understand the human impact in terms of the fabric of the religion and the basis of the religion. They seem to play a prominent role. So many of the offshoots. This guy once walked here, and this guy had a vision there, and this guy did this, and that guy did that, and it's all about different people who somehow woke up one day and said, follow me, and they were dynamic, and they were maybe brilliant and exceptional people, and they were able to have a following based on what they saw, based on what they claimed. But that's really not who we are, and it's not the way Klal Yisrael operates. To the extent where HaKadosh Baruch Hu worked out based on the system of the parshos, the way we lane, that the week of Zayin Adar, which would be the week that maybe if there was a danger, if there was a chance that Klal Yisrael would sort of deify anybody, certainly Yaakov Avinu was worried about that as well, but certainly if there was ever a person in Jewish history who would potentially be deified as being somebody who sort of moved out of the realm of the human into some type of a super realm where somehow he became a conduit of prayer or conduit of any type of power that we would be looking towards, it would be Moshe Rabbeinu. And the message is profound, and therefore if there was ever a time to sort of put Moshe in the limelight, put Moshe in that position, it would be, I guess, his yahrzeit. That would be the logical time. Zayin Adar would be the time to sort of put Moshe on a pedestal, and maybe over the course of the years and over the course of the centuries, have Moshe sort of stand out as being a larger than life figure, as somebody who maybe moved into a different realm other than a typical Jewish leader. It is a very dangerous place that a nation, if not careful, can fall into. That's exactly counter to everything that the Yiddishkeit stands for in terms of the unique relationship we, each and every one of us, has with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We don't have those intermediaries in that kind of sense. We had Nevi'im, we had people who would admonish us and guide us, and hopefully try to help us to do tshuva, but we never have, and it's fundamentally antithetical to the nature of Yiddishkeit to assume that anybody else has superpowers. So how appropriate it is, and maybe, who knows, maybe over the course of the centuries, this is one of the factors why it didn't happen. Because Dafka on Zayin Adar, Dafka the week that there's a chance, there would have been a chance over the course of time to put Moshe Rabbeinu on a different level. Dafka that Parsha Tetzaveh, you're not mentioned. There is sort of a diminishing in some regard of Moshe Rabbeinu by making this the Parsha where he's not there, to remind us exactly of that point, that we don't deify anybody. We don't have that kind of concept. That while there have been incredible people, and these people made unbelievable contributions, at the end of the day, it's between Klal Yisrael and us. And Moshe Rabbeinu passed away, and everybody passed away. I remember hearing from my Rabbi many times about the Rambam. The Rambam seems to have taken a sort of unique position amongst Rishonim. Certainly here, back in the 20th century, I think it was more common, where the Rambam became sort of the central focus of yeshiva learning and chakiris and brisket Torah and so much, and there was maybe a danger. It sort of put the Rambam on a different realm. And I remember hearing from Rabbi, listen, at the end of the day, if Chas v'Shalom, Rambam was great, he was a Rishon, there's nothing to talk about. But let's say, God forbid, we found that the Rambam actually espoused something of a heretical nature. What we do, we take the Rambam off the shelf and move on. Our religion is not based on the Rambam or Rashi or Moshe Rabbeinu or Yaakov Avinu. It's based. Obviously, these are all incredible people. Not to Chas v'Shalom diminish from them. We have to appreciate them for who they were and the contributions that they made. But this is about understanding that we have a unique relationship, and that's really the focus of our avodas HaShem. And certainly at a time right before Purim, where again it's nothing is coincidental, and there's so much swirling around of confusion and concerns and the questions and the panic and all types of things that fill the headlines. For us to remember, which Klal Yisrael was able to remember. There's a reason why Kimu v'Kibla Yehudim, Kimu Mashi Kibla Kfar, this unique principle that Klal Yisrael was able to re-accept the Torah. And if we remember back, what were the qualities that allowed us to re-accept the Torah? There's the Nasa v'Nishma, there's absolute total faith and commitment to do the Ratzon HaShem. We're able to muster that once again during this time of Purim, but also the idea of the Achdus, the Vayichan Shem Yisrael Neged Ahar that existed at the time of Kabbalah Satira back in the year 2448. That Achdus was able to once again connect itself between Klal Yisrael and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And Chaim Shmulevitz points out that Achdus, how do you have that kind of Achdus when you have sort of a common enemy and you recognize that there is no body, there is no strategy, there's only one strategy. Okay, Einoid Movadoi, Litochad Bashem, turning to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Tefillah, that's the strategy. That's the, as much as, Mordechai, people thought Mordechai put us into this mess. Obviously, how V'napachu, just the opposite. He's the one who's going to get out of this mess. But what was his method? His method was turn to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, 3 days of tefillah, fasting, and remembering that we don't have intermediaries. We have a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And when we all have that common feeling, that common vision, that common understanding, we come together with that reliance on HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There's nobody in this world besides HaKadosh Baruch Hu that will be able to help us and protect us and bring us to where we need to go. Then that creates an incredible level of achdus. That's what Klal Yisrael recognized at that time. When things are so bleak and you lose all the mid-range or the mid-level intermediaries that somehow we think we can rely on, and then all those fall away, and all you have is, my gosh, the recognition that things might come to an end, that there's a day that Haman of Russia has designated as a time for our annihilation, and what do? And there are no other strategies other than, that's one of the reasons why HaKadosh Baruch Hu put Esther there, and looks like she's palsy-wowsy with the Achashverosh, that Klal Yisrael shouldn't feel that we have an ally in the White House. That we should be completely connected and reliant on HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So, Bez Hashem, if we remember this idea, this idea that Moshe Rabbeinu's name is not mentioned, and Dafka Zayin Adar it's not mentioned, because we don't rely on intermediaries. We rely on our own unique relationship, our power of tefillah, and our achdus. And that's really where, if the power is going to come from any other place, it's going to come from the unity of Klal Yisrael in its reliance on a Kodesh Baruch Hu. So, Bez Hashem, we should sort of use the panic that's out there. Not that it's a positive thing, but at least it should remind us that, again, it's Yeshua Hashem Kerafayin, it's Habitachin and HaKadosh Baruch Hu that's going to bring about all Yeshuas, and Bez Hashem, it'll be a source to bring about the ultimate Yeshua with Bias Mashiach and the remaining.